Kaya, kaya yan si Dove, I think he was specifically there because magaling siya talaga dyan. Very, very sharp. Pag, ang idol niyan is si Justice Scalia pagdating sa pagsusulat. I don't know kung kilala niyo si Justice Scalia. Justice Scalia is a Supreme Court Justice in the United States. And we don't share the same politics, si Justice Scalia sa ako, pero I love how Justice Scalia writes. So yan. Anyway, so yan ang idol, yan ang mga isa sa mga gusto ni Dov Jacobs. Kasi I can still remember sa jurisprudence class namin, may pinabasa sa amin si Dov na decision ni Justice Scalia. So yan. Magaling siya mong basag and very, very sharp, really, really sharp. At grabe siya magbasa ng how interprets law. Very, very precise. Okay. Medyo legal positivist to si Dov, and of course also realist. Okay? A legal realist. So ngayon, itong si Dov, okay, matagal na so critical siya sa ICC. Specifically sa jurisdiction. Not just about the Philippines, but how ICC exercises its jurisdiction. Isa siya sa mga major critics ng jurisdictional overreach ng ICC. Hello. Magandang gabi po sa inyong uli. Ito po ang inyong favorite na ka-moisture, si Sas Rogando Sasot, mula po dito sa Japan. Charot. Anyway, kamusta kayong lahat? Ito na uli at i-take to natin ang aking live This Time with Feelings. Ito ay tungkol sa lawyer isa sa mga additional lawyer ni Pangulong Duterte sa ICC, si Dov Jacobs. Ayan, pero bago ang lahat, alam niyo na ang drill, please click share now na at i-share niyo ito sa inyong mga chat groups, sa inyong wall, sa inyong Facebook groups, sa kahit kanino na gustong magkaroon ng kaunting information about doon sa additional lawyer ni PRRD. Sandali nga, maglagay ako ng ilap. Ni PRRD kasi nga maraming gustong makaalam, especially about sa mga lawyers niya, gustong malaman kung anong background, etc. Actually, nung simula pa lang niyang madala siya dun sa ICC at na-introduce yung una niyang lawyer, some people are already asking me. Kasi nga, tumira ako dati sa The Hague. Tumira ako sa The Hague ng mga 8 years and a half. Tumira ako sa The Hague ng 8 years and a half. At yung mga nag-wonder kung paano i-pronounce talaga yung Dutch version ng city, yung original, of course, the Dutch is the original, yung D-E-N-H-A-A-G. Ang pronunciation nun ay Den Haag. Okay? Repeat after me. Den Haag. Hindi kayo na. So imagine nyo, kayo ay nag-expel ng plema in a very, very light way. Once again, Den Haag. So, ako kasi, bibigyan ko lang kayo ng konting background sa Netherlands, no? Yung Amsterdam sa The Hague. Sa The Hague po ang center, nandiyan po ang government ng Netherlands, wala po sa Amsterdam. Nasa The Hague po, kapitbahay ko lang actually yung parliament sa Den Haag. Yung Amsterdam, iba yung Dutch nila doon, no? Kasi ang mga taga The Hague, medyo conservative ito, medyo old Dutch, alam mo yan, parang sila yung mga medyo highbrow kasi nga nandiyan ang government, nandiyan ang mga diplomats, very serious ang The Hague. Actually, I love The Hague, no? I love The Hague. I lived there for 8.5 months. I love The Hague. It's one of my favorite cities. Kasi it's quiet, at malapit sa beach. May beach dyan yan, yung Scheveningen. Yung ICC, malapit yan sa beach, sa Scheveningen. And then, ayun. And well, maganda kasi yung bahay namin. Maganda kasi yung bahay namin ng jowa ko dyan sa Den Haag. So, ngayon, yun ang pronunciation na, Den Haag. So, Den Haag. So just feel like you are expelling phlegm very lightly and very soft. Den Haag. Ganon. So, magkaiba yung Dutch yan, yung Amsterdam, yung The Hague Dutch. Yung mga taga The Hague, feeling talaga nila, sila talaga yung tamang Dutch ang pronunciation. So, if you're not aware, kahit anong yung mga Pilipino sa Netherlands, malalaman mo talaga kung saan part ng Netherlands yung yung nagsasalita because iba-iba sila ng kasi accent ng Dutch, and especially yung G, no? Iba-iba yung kasi nagturo ako sa Maastricht. Sa Maastricht, iba naman yung pronunciation nila doon, very hard ang G. So parang palapit na ng German yung kanilang mga pronunciation, ganon. So iba-iba. Anyway, so i-click nyo na yung share para go. And ngayon, i-introduce ko yung bagong lawyer, additional lawyer ni PRRD, si Dov Jacobs. Gumawa na ako nito ng live ko earlier, kaso hindi magandang connection. And kasi pala, kaya hindi magandang connection, kasi kailangan ko mag-update ng system. Alam niyo naman pag Windows, ang daming gustong gawin sa buhay ng Windows. Ayun nga lang, bongga lang talaga siya sa mga heavy duty na nagawain, no? So ito, like that. So, yeah, I was excited nung nabasa ko to. In-alert kasi ako ng isa ko sa mga readers na ito nga raw, si Dov Jacobs ay isa na namang naging hinar na lawyer, no? Na-approve ng pagiging lawyer niya ni PRRD. And some of my readers, especially yung mga matagal ko ng followers, kasi alam nila na nag-aral ako sa Leiden. Actually, iba-iba rin yung pronunciation ng Leiden. Yung mga taga-Leiden, iba yung pronunciation nila ng Leiden. It's not Leiden. Again, it's Leiden. 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 Hindi po siya Leiden, it's Leiden. Okay. Kasi nga nakita nila na nagtuturo siya sa Leiden, Universität Leiden. Doon ako nag-aral. So yung mga matagal ko ng followers, alam nila dyan ako nag-aral. So nag-wonder sila kung naging professor ko pa to si Dov Jacobs. Okay. And ang masasabi ko sa inyo, si Dov Jacobs, ang isa sa mga favorite kong professors sa Leiden University. And katulad ng sinabi ko, naging professor ko si Dov Jacobs sa 4 na international law courses. Okay, 4. So I had 20 units. Courses po ang tawag namin sa subjects, no? Ang courses po, hindi po yan degree. Yung po yung subjects sa atin. Okay? So, ano siya, naging professor ko siya, 4 na international law courses. So I have 20 units sa kanya. Actually, gusto kong kunin yung international criminal law. Mag-specialize ng international criminal law. Siya yung professor doon. Kaso, nung time na yon na pwede ko nang kunin yung international criminal law, kasi higher specialization ng international criminal law nagkasabay siya ng foreign policy and diplomacy. Yung foreign policy and diplomacy sa Leiden noon, ang nagtuturo dating Secretary General ng NATO. Okay? So dati siya Secretary General ng NATO. So naging Secretary General siya ng NATO ng mga 2001 nung panahon ng Iraq War. And gusto kong kunin yun. Kasi syempre, di ba, napaka-interesting, very historical figure. Tapos siya yung magiging professor ba ng foreign policy and diplomacy. So I had to make a choice whether i-take ko yung foreign policy and diplomacy or international, or mag-higher specialization pa ng international criminal law. Sabi ko, 4 times ko na naging teacher si Dov Jacobs. So might as well just do foreign policy and diplomacy. Kasi nga, mas magiging malawak yung kaalaman mo, etc. So anyway, naging professor ko si Dov Jacobs, 20 units. Kasi ang tinapos ko po is combined major in world politics and global justice. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, interdisciplinary study po siya ng international relations and international law. That's why I have a formal training in international law. Four courses, so 20 units ang tinake ko under kay Dov Jacobs. Ano yung mga courses na yon? Yung introductory course on international law. Ang title nun is Global Challenges, Justice. So, ang course na yon is about justice. What exactly do you mean by justice? Ganyan. So, pinag-aralan, we examine the very concept of justice. So, parang siyang philosophy of justice. Parang ganyan. Pero iba-ibang angle. So, ang dami-dami namin kinover noon. Lalo na ng panahon namin, napaka-slave driver nung Leiden University. Kasi yung university ko, hindi siya yung Leiden University na traditional. Okay? Yung sa Leiden University College, ako nag-aral. And it is an honors college. So, it's a very selective program, kailangan mayroon ka international profile, meron kang some experience, etc. So, and nag-fit yung profile ko, kaya ako nakapasok. Pero yun nga, very demanding na mas grabe yung pinag-aaralan namin kaysa dun sa traditional university. Yung sobrang grabe na siguro we read about at least 100 pages per week sa isang subject. Tapos napaka-demanding pa kasi sa traditional Dutch university, walang graded walang participation grade. Sa traditional Dutch university, ano ka lang, final paper ka lang. Pero sa amin, may participation grade, kailangan mo talaga magpabibo sa class, tapos may presentation grade, may midterm paper, may final paper. Balay. So, ibig sabihin balay. Tapos, alam mo, pagod na pagod kaming lahat. Pero nag-enjoy ako kasi nag-enjoy talaga ako mag-aral. So, kay Dov Jacobs, yun ang una kong tinig sa kanya, yung Global Challenges Justice. And nagustuhan ko kagad siya kasi ayaw niya ng mga bleeding hearts argument. Ayaw niya yan. Okay? Ayaw ni Dov Jacobs. Pakita ulit ko yung picture. Ayaw niya yan. Okay? Asa na ba yung picture? Ayan. Ayaw niya yan. At no nonsense yan. Okay? Very French. But he's also Jewish. Okay? Alam mo ang mga Jewish, ibang klase yan. Very direct to the point. Ang may Jewish background. If you've ever been to Israel, yung mga OFWs dito sa Israel, nakaka-relate sila sa akin. The Jewish people are very direct to the point. Ayaw nilang paikot-ikot. No? And so, ganyan ang experience ko sa kanya. Unang-una kong course, yung Global Justice, Global Challenges Justice. So doon ko siya doon ko talagang na-impress ako sa kanya kasi nga talagang ang lakas niyang mambasag. Alam mo yung mga professor na malakas mambasag? alam mo yung mga eksena ng mga professor na pag kinikenet-kenet mo. Alam mo yung ibig sabihin ng kenet-kenet? Yung binobola-bola mo, yung gusto mo lang magpahaba ng recitation time para lang mapuno mo yung recitation time mo. Ayaw niya ng ganyan, no? Yung gusto mo lang magsalita ng yung mga magagandang words, ganyan. Hindi mo siya magaganyan-ganyan. Tapos ang malakas siya mambasag ng ganyan. Kasi naalala ko yan, si Dov, talagang ano ba yung meron akong may presentation ako noon, affirmative action. Okay. Maganda yung pagkaka-discuss ko naman nun, in fairness. Pero, nung bandang huli na, parang nag-veer towards motherhood statements ako. Tapos kasi noon, may feedback ka kaagad sa professor after your presentation. Bibigay kaagad sa yung grade, may feedback kaagad. Sabi niya, ang ganda-ganda na ng presentation mo. Sabi niya ganyan, I like how you presented, ganito, ganyan, ganito. Tapos sabi niya, but I don't like how you ended it. Ganyan. It sounds so cheesy. Sabi niya. Syempre, ang academic background ko noon, Pilipinas. No? Alam mo naman sa Pilipinas, kaya man daanin to sa mga Miss Universe, Miss Universe state. So yun ang background ko nung nag-aral ako sa Netherlands. Parang, di ba, ganyan sa Pilipinas, mahilig sa mga Miss Universe statements kahit sa mga classroom. Tapos papalakpakan ka, ganyan. Binasag talaga niya yung ganyan. Kaya nawala na yung mga ganyan-ganyan ko na take yung mga pang Miss Universe statements. Ngayon, ang nangyari, so kaya yung malakas siya mambasag. Tapos meron pa kaming discussion na about I really forgot what exactly we were discussing. Pero ang pag-uusap namin noon is about I think we were panahon yun ng Syria. Kakasikla pala nung Syria. And then tinanong talaga ako ng kaklase ko. So, ang confident pa ako. Tapos, it's about, I was like defending na kailangan may gawin because people are dying, ganyan. Tapos sabi naman nung isa kong kaklase, I think she was from Latvia. Sabi niya, or Estonia, I can't remember. Basta Eastern European. Tinanong talaga niya ako, why, what's wrong about people dying? Tinanong akong ganyan. So ako talaga, shock ako. So ganun ang mga discussion, no? Hindi ka tapos gumanon sa akin si Dom, what's wrong with people dying? Ginanon ako ni Dove. Tinanong niya ako, sabi, parang gumayan siya na, so, Sas, what's wrong with people dying? Ibig sabihin nun, kailangan mong hasain pa yung argument mo. Di ba? Na parang, kaya yon. So that was my first encounter with him sa class niya. And nabasag talaga niya yung mga Miss Universe, mga pang Miss Universe agenda. Alam yung mga pang Miss Universe na statements, yung ganyan. Basag na basag. And then from then on, na-challenge na ako kay Dove, no? Actually, nasa akin pa yung paper ko, final paper ko dun sa subject na yon. Kasi ako, as I've discussed before, nakikita nyo lang kasi sinusulat ko sa post. Wala, hindi ko naman masyadong pinagkakaabalahan yan, no? Pag ako talaga, pag final paper, sa university requirements, very diligent ako. Kahit tanungin ninyo yung mga kaklase ko ng high school sa San Beda, very meticulous, very diligent. Hindi lang halata. Hindi lang halata sa Facebook, no? Kasi naman, bakit? Eto lang naman tayo sa Facebook, hindi ba? Nag-aanuhan lang naman tayo, nagkukulitan lang naman tayo, medyo may magandang pero pagdating sa rigor, pagdating ng academic field, very OC ako, very meticulous. Kaya that's one of the reasons why nagsuffer yung relationship ko kasi subsub talaga ako sa pag-aaral. Wala na akong time. Hindi na kami sabay magpatulog kasi gising ako ng madaling araw and it was almost every day, and that was my contribution on why it was a very lovely relationship really went south. That was my contribution there. Anyway, so ang ikalawang course ko sa kanya is statehood and sovereignty. So that was my second international law course under Dov Jacobs. And yung mga nag-law school dito sa Pilipinas, alam ko ang international law sa Pilipinas ata is only 5 units. And isang beses lang yan. And sovereignty is only discussed in passing. Doon nag-aaral ko sa Leiden, it was an entire subject. Yun lang pinag-usapan namin. Sovereignty. Sovereignty. So, lahat ng all aspect about sovereignty. Kaya nga sinasabi ko na international law is not just about what you read on paper. You need to understand the history. You need to understand the philosophy. You need to understand the politics around it. So, it's ganun mag-aral ng international law. Hindi siya pwedeng katulad ng domestic law. Okay? Hindi mo siya pwedeng pag-aralan ng katulad ng ganun. Otherwise, lost ka, no? You'll never be good at it. And ayun, naging professor ko siya doon, and bongga din, no? Bongga din yung pag-ano niya. And ang ikatlo kong subject, yung next two na tinake ko under kay Dov are called method classes. Ibig sabihin, it's only focused on methods. Yung ibang classes are content. Yung other two na tinake ko kay Dov sa kanya is method, okay? Because nga ang akin ang combined major ako, so required akong mag-take ng methods on international law and international relations. Ngayon, sa international law, ang method class ko ay under kay Dov. Yung una is advocacy and litigation, and then the other one is jurisprudence. So, kaya kilala ko si Dov, no? I know how he argues kasi 4 times ko siyang naging professor. And iba't ibang courses. And I actually like him. Actually Dov Jacobs is one of my greatest influence pagdating sa international law. He's also a well-published international law scholar. He's also actually sandali lang. May papanood ako sa inyo. And the thing is, si Dov, critic siya ng sandali. Mamaya ka na. And ang ano pa niyan, si Dov kasi, critic yan ng International Criminal Court. Critic siya, not because he wants to abolish the ICC, pero critic si Dov because si Dov ay procedure, talaga siya, stickler on procedure. Okay? So that's why I think I know how what his role going to be sa kaso ni PRRD. I think his role is going to examine procedure. Kasi si Dov, I can still remember what he told us during during our justice class. Na for him, for Dov, ang first, as far as I can remember, for him, it's not the content itself of the law that matters when it comes to the rule of law. Okay? It's not the content, but the procedures. Okay? Ang sabi kasi niya, yung content kasi, yung substance, yung content ng mga batas, nagbabago yan. Nagbabago yan. Okay? Nagbabago yan. Halimbawa, kung halimbawa conservative, halimbawa sa US, kung conservative ang nanalo, malamang mas maraming batas ang magiging conservative. Kung liberal, maraming liberal na liberal leaning na batas. Kaya ang sabi niya, the rule of law is, parang naalala ko nang sabi niya, the rule of law is not really about the content. Okay? Kasi yung content is subject to whoever is actually dominating society. So sabi niya, ang rule of law is really about the procedures behind it. So pag hindi mo pinalo yung procedures, yung procedural, hindi ka na rule of law. Parang ganon. Parang ganon yung eksena ng ikabuhi. Charot. Kaya yan si Dove, I think he was specifically there because magaling siya talaga siya. Very, very sharp. Pag ang idol niyan is si Justice Scalia pagdating sa pagsusulat. I don't know kung kilala niyo si Justice Scalia. Justice Scalia is a Supreme Court Justice in the United States. And we don't share the same politics, si Justice Scalia sa ako, pero I love how Justice Scalia writes. I think anyone who would like to become a better writer should read Justice Scalia's decisions or dissenting opinions kasi sobrang galing niyang magsulat. Very clear, crisp, and it's just well written. Maganda yung exposition ng arguments. So even though that I don't like him, I love how he writes. I actually reads every now and then yung mga sinusulat ni Justice Scalia. Kasi, well, actually, that's the characteristics of a lot of writers, ng mga conservative writers. Kasi I have a lot of I have several favorites na philosophers on conservatism na very, very gusto ko. Like, for example, si John Keats, si Michael Oakeshott, and sino ba yung isa? Si Oakeshott, and Bernard Williams. Kasi, maganda sila magsulat. Gusto ko yung pagsusulat nila. So, that's why I love them. I still have their books. Hindi ko sila natapon. I still have their books. Binabasa ko. Tapos si Justice Scalia, I love how he writes. So, kahit hindi ako nag-agree sa kanya, ang galing kasi magsulat. Alam mo yan. Anyway, so yan ang idol, yan ang mga isa sa mga gusto ni Dov Jacobs. Kasi I can still remember sa jurisprudence class namin, may pinabasa sa amin si Dov na decision ni Justice Scalia. So yan. Magaling siya mong basag and very, very sharp, really, really sharp. At grabe siya magbasa ng how interprets law. Very, very precise. Okay. Medyo legal positivist to si Dov, and of course also realist. Okay? A legal realist. So ngayon, itong si Dov, okay, matagal na so critical siya sa ICC, specifically sa jurisdiction. Not just about the Philippines, but how ICC exercises its jurisdiction. Isa siya sa mga major critics ng jurisdictional overreach ng ICC. Na-gets yun na kung bakit ang ganda ng pasok ni Dov Jacobs. Okay? And nagkaroon na siya ng dating statements regarding dun sa Burundi. Okay? Ang problema kasi ni Dov, ganito. Yung Burundi nag-withdraw. Okay? Ngayon, ang tanong kasi nila, kailan ba nag-e-exercise, kailan ba nagkakaroon ng jurisdiction ang korte? Okay? Ang korte. Okay, kasi nga 'di ba maraming processes sa ICC, may parang vague kasi doon sa Rome Statute na ang sinabi na hindi makaka-affect ang withdrawal kapag ang isang when a matter is already under the consideration of the court. Ngayon, itong sa Pilipinas, nag-withdraw ng 2019. I have to verify. Was it 2018, 2019? So, it's on top of my withdrawal. Okay, withdrawal. Ano tong withdrawal? Kailan yung withdrawal? 2019? 2018? Okay, so ito na yung notes ko. So nag-withdraw ang Pilipinas ng 2018. 2018, okay? So, 1 year effectivity. So, naging 2019, naging effective siya. Yung ICC prosecutor, nag-request lang siya ng authorization to investigate mula sa korte ng May 24, 2021. So over mga mag-1 year na since effectiveness noong withdrawal ng Philippines. Tapos yung korte mismo, nagbigay lang siya ng authorization ng September 15, 2021. So nakikita niyo na yung problema dito. Okay, nag-withdraw ka na, wala ka ng jurisdiction dapat. Ngayon ang problema kasi ngayon, ano ba yung paano ba i-define yung jurisdiction? Ibig sabihin ba anything that's related in the past? May jurisdiction ng korte kahit lang ano yung nagtitrigger ng jurisdiction? Yun ang tanong. Hindi siya pwedeng i-discuss ng abstract eh. So ang tanong, ano yung nagtitrigger ng jurisdiction dahil may ginawang krimen or yung korte ay na-trigger yung jurisdiction? So ano yung eksaktong nagtitrigger ng jurisdiction? Dito sa Pilipinas, ang sinasabi nila, yung preliminary examination. Yun yung before nag-request ng investigation. Ang problema kasi, ang problema dito is, madugo yung labanan dito kasi ang sinasabi dun sa treaty, under the consideration of the court. Yung korte, umakto lang naman yung korte, naging involved lang mismo yung korte noong nag-apply ng authorization to investigate yung prosecutor. Nakukuha nyo ba? Sa preliminary examination, hindi doon involved ang korte. Ang involved lang doon ay yung prosecutor. So, ngayon, matindi ang labanan dito kasi yung prosecutor ba ay kasama doon sa definition ng court doon sa Rome Statute. Nagigets yun na. So, yun ang magiging meat niyan. Kasi diniscuss na to ni Dov before eh. May blog kasi si Dov. So, anyone who would like to read him, meron siyang blog. Ipopost. This is blogger din siya. So yan, ito yung blog niya. Very cool, no? Actually, very cool to see si Dov. He's very cool, very nice person. So ito yung kanyang blog. So ang title ng blog niya is Spreading the Jam. Di ba ang kulit ng title? So madalas na dito magsulat ng about international law issues. And hanapin nyo na lang, ang ano niya is Dov, hanapin nyo na lang Spreading the Jam, Dov Jacobs. Okay. So ngayon, kaya nga itong si Dov, kinote siya nung mga judges na nag-dissenting opinion doon sa nung 2023. 2023 ba yung dissenting opinion? Okay. Okay, so para makilala nyo lalo si Dov, ang maipapalabas ako ditong clip ng November, kailan ba to? September 23, 2021, pero in-upload ito sa Facebook ng Elnet France. So, nandito si Dov dito, parang guest speaker siya. Tapos, sa part na to, dinidiscuss niya yung ICC. Okay? Pakinggan nyo mabuti ha, para malalaman nyo na kung bakit talagang it's just natural na maging part siya it will just be so natural na maging part siya ng defense team ni PRRD. Okay, so this is it.
The International Criminal Court is the first permanent international criminal court, and it's a treaty-based court. What does that mean? Greg was mentioning the sources of international law. A treaty is a kind of contract between states, and that's very interesting because it's based on consent, right? A treaty is based on consent. And I saw there was a question about Chapter 7 resolutions in the Q&A. We can address it later, but a treaty is based on consent, so only states who consent to being held by it can be forced to abide by it and have obligations that arise from it, etc. So that's a very important point to note. But the ICC is plagued again by criticisms of politics. And I could give various examples. For example, the ICC generally prosecutes rebels in a lot of the situations it intervenes in, rather than governments. So I was on the defense on the Gbagbo case, for example, and Laurent Gbagbo, who was told that he had lost the elections, was prosecuted. And despite lots of evidence that the current government of Ouattara and the rebels at the time had committed mass human rights violations, no trial against the rebels were prosecuted. Against the former rebels were initiated. If you take, DRC, it's low-level warlords, not the government. If you take Uganda, as the Lord's Resistance Army is being prosecuted, not Museveni. And I could go on like that. So there is a dimension of double standard here. One question that arises, and I'm making those points because they're very important to understand, again, the debate about Israel at ICC. These are issues which are structural to the ICC and which take on a particular force in the case of Israel, But it would be a mistake, and I've said this to some of you that I've already met in private, and I've said it when I can, it would be a mistake to consider that there's to analyze things under a specific anti-Israel bias, because then it would be misunderstanding the structural aspects of the ICC, which explain why Israel might be singled out. And it's a complex web of politics, of the structural dimension of the ICC, of anti-Semitism, etc. But you cannot just pinpoint it on one thing. You cannot just say the ICC is anti-Semitic and just push everything under the table, because then you don't understand what's going on. So that's why I'm making those points, because the idea that the ICC is targeting certain states and not others is true of other states. And I see I have 1 minute left, so just to take one example, the ICC. One of the criticism of the ICC opening an investigation in Israel is that it's going beyond its jurisdictional reach, right? That Israel did not sign the Rome Statute, and I won't go into technicalities here. I'm happy to do so, but that Israel, it's going beyond its mandate, beyond its competence, beyond its jurisdiction to attack and to open investigation with Israel. I legally believe so, but it's not specific to Israel. It's done so in relation to Myanmar. It's done so in relation to Burundi, who had left the Rome Statute. It's recently done so in relation to the Philippines. There is, and this is where there's a human rights dimension, this idea of overreach of human rights, which explains why the ICC acts in that way, not just vis-a-vis Israel, but vis-a-vis other non-state parties. And I think I land here, having already done my conclusion, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dov, and you.
So ano nyo na gets nyo na kung bakit parang naturally talagang magiging part siya ng legal team, ng defense legal team ni PRRD, hindi ba? So napanood niyo naman, di ba? Klaro. Kasi talagang problematic na sa kanya yung overreach, jurisdictional overreach ng ICC. Matagal na siyang nagsusulat dyan. Kahit nung estudyante pa ako, problema na niya na yan. Ano niya na yan? Talagang issue na sa kanya yan. Kasi, like for example, ang ano niya, especially yung konsepto ng human rights. Kasi yung human rights, napaka-vague. Parang ang ano niya is, kailangan siyang klaruhin. Ano bang ibig mong sabihin dyan sa human rights na yan? Kasi the human rights can be interpreted according to whoever uses it. So paano siya kailangan siya mapasaloob ng rule of law. Kung if you're going to connect human rights and rule of law demands that the law should be clear in order for it to be a useful guide for action. Nagigets niyo? So yun yung problema. So nakita niyo, di ba, na problema na niya na yung meron na talaga siyang issue sa jurisdiction ng ICC. So may mga sinabi siyang bansa, di ba? So of course, hindi alam niya walang jurisdiction yung ICC sa Israel. Sabi niya hindi lang yun sa Israel, kundi rin sa Myanmar, Burundi, and of course na-mention niya yung Philippines, kasi Philippines yung pinaka-latest na na-implicate yung jurisdiction. So that's why it's very natural for Dov to be actually part of the team. At yun, I believe na yun ang kanyang assignment in order to challenge the jurisdiction of the court. Matindi to. Sinasabi ko sa inyo. Kasi finally, si Dov, ma-argue niya na to. Kasi si Dov, sinusulat niya kasi ito madalas sa academic journals. No? So ngayon, ito na ang kanyang magiging shining moment. No? Kaya nga so happy kasi talagang, ano siya very stickler to process. Very stickler to process. Hindi mo siya pwedeng makenat-kenat. Hindi mo siya pwedeng daanin sa mga bleeding hearts argument, because for Dov, the law is not about making you feel good. Ganon siya ka-harsh. The law was not created in order to make you feel good. No, ang ano niya is ang batas, the purpose, the function of law in society isn't actually to make anyone feel good. So, ang function ng batas is really to organize society. It's not about making you feel good. Hindi yun ang purpose ng batas kung bakit nagkaroon ng rule of law. Okay? So ngayon, may realist yan si Dov, and of course he's also medyo legal positivist si Dov. You can actually get to know Dov go to Google Scholar kasi ang dami niya na itong na-published about international criminal law. So, ano talaga siya, very, very influential siya pagdating sa international criminal law. Ang dami niya nang na-engage. Very, very active, nakikipag-debate yan. So, puntahan nyo na lang Dov Jacobs, punta kayo ng Google Scholar, and then you can read a lot of his academic articles in a lot of international law journals. So yon. That's my experience of Dov, and yung mga nagtatanong if I know Dov and what can I say about it, eto na yon. Okay?